Welcome back to Gentle Calm. You keep waiting to feel motivated enough to change your life, to start the routine, to follow through, to become the version of yourself you keep imagining. And when that feeling comes, you move. You make a plan, you feel clear again. For a few days, maybe even a few weeks, things seem to hold. Then the feeling fades, and with it, your consistency fades too. So you tell yourself the same thing again. I just need to get my motivation back. But that may be the mistake. A lot of people are living as if motivation is supposed to carry their life. They wait for the right feeling, the right mindset, the right surge of internal energy that finally makes change feel possible. And when that energy is present, everything seems easier. Decisions feel cleaner, effort feels lighter, the future feels open again. In those moments, it is easy to believe that motivation was the missing piece. You feel ready, so you begin. You feel inspired, so you commit. You feel energized, so you imagine that this time things will finally stay in place. But motivation has a way of making promises it was never built to keep. It can help you begin, but it cannot hold everything together. And when people depend on it too heavily, they end up in a cycle that feels deeply personal and strangely discouraging. They move when motivation arrives. They stall when it fades. They blame themselves when they cannot recreate it. Over time, this creates a quiet form of instability. Not because they do not care. Usually they care a great deal. They care enough to try again and again. They care enough to keep searching for a better rhythm, a stronger routine, a more consistent version of themselves. But they keep placing that hope in something temporary, something that changes with sleep, stress, hormones, work pressure, emotional strain, and the invisible weather of daily life. That is the problem with motivation. It feels powerful enough to build a life on, but it is not stable enough to support one. Most people do not think of it that way. They think of motivation as the answer. If only I felt more motivated, I would finally start. If only I could get the feeling back, I would stay consistent. If only I wanted it badly enough, things would stop slipping. So when life becomes messy again, they search for another emotional surge. A new morning, a new week, a new reset, a new burst of determination. And for a little while, the cycle works. The person cleans things up, refocuses, feels strong again. For a few days, they become the version of themselves they have been trying to become. They show up, they follow through, they feel proud of themselves. They think they have finally found the turning point. Then, ordinary life returns. Energy drops, something stressful happens, work becomes heavier, the body feels tired, the mind becomes noisy again. And suddenly, the behavior that felt so natural just a few days earlier starts to feel harder to access. This is where many people become unnecessarily cruel to themselves. They assume the problem is character. They tell themselves they are lazy, inconsistent, weak, undisciplined. They interpret the fading of motivation as proof that they are the kind of person who cannot sustain change. But the deeper issue is often much simpler than that. They were expecting a feeling to do the work of structure, and feelings are not built for that. A feeling can start a movement. It cannot be trusted to hold a life together. This is one of the most important shifts a person can make. To stop asking motivation to do a job it cannot do. Because motivation is not a foundation. It is a spark. Sparks matter. Sometimes they are beautiful. Sometimes they are exactly what helps you begin. A person in a numb or disconnected season may genuinely need a spark to remember that change is still possible. But a spark is not the same thing as a structure. It can ignite effort. It cannot replace what effort needs in order to last. That is where many people get lost. They mistake emotional momentum for real support. They think that because something feels powerful in the moment, It must also be durable across time. But those are not the same thing. A feeling can be intense and still be temporary. A person can be sincere and still be unstable. They can mean every word of the promise they make to themselves on Monday morning and still find themselves drifting by Thursday. Not because the promise was fake, but because sincerity alone is not enough to create steadiness. Steadiness requires something deeper. It requires a way of living that does not collapse the moment your internal weather changes. This is why so many people feel like they are always restarting. They are not only restarting habits, they are restarting identity. Each time motivation returns, they rebuild a new version of themselves. A cleaner version, a stronger version, a more committed version. For a short period, they live inside that identity. Then the feeling changes, and the identity dissolves with it. That cycle is exhausting, not just practically, but emotionally. Because every time motivation fades, the person does not simply lose momentum. They lose trust. They begin to wonder whether any clear feeling they have can be believed. They stop trusting the plans they make in strong moments because they know how often those plans disappear when the mood shifts. They stop trusting their own hope. This is one of the hidden costs of relying too heavily on motivation. It turns your life into something that only works under ideal emotional conditions. And ideal emotional conditions are not reliable. A life built that way will always feel unstable. You will always be trying to catch a feeling that cannot stay. You will always be trying to become consistent through something that was never designed to produce consistency. This is why motivation-centered living tends to create more drama than peace. There are strong days and weak days, hopeful resets and disappointing collapses, bursts of effort and periods of guilt. The whole thing becomes emotionally loud. But real structure is usually much quieter than that. Real structure does not depend on whether the day begins with inspiration. It depends on whether something inside your life remains steady enough to guide action even when inspiration is absent. This is where clarity becomes more important than motivation. Most people think they need more energy. Often, what they need is less confusion. They need to stop asking every single day whether they feel like becoming the person they said they wanted to be. They need fewer negotiations, because constant negotiation is exhausting. Should I do this today? Does it still matter? Can I skip and return tomorrow? Maybe I just need to wait until I feel more ready. That internal conversation consumes a surprising amount of energy. By the time a person reaches the habit itself, they are already tired. This is why so many people think they lack discipline when the deeper issue is that they are constantly trying to redecide what should have already been decided. If something matters only when you feel motivated, then it does not really have a stable place in your life. It is still waiting for emotional permission. That is not a strong foundation. A stronger life is built differently, not by removing all feeling, not by becoming cold or robotic, not by pretending that emotional energy does not matter, but by placing your behavior on something deeper than emotional energy. A principle, a standard, a chosen value, a clear sense of what you want your life to reflect. This changes the whole experience of consistency. You no longer wake up needing to feel inspired in order to know what matters. You already know what matters. And because you know, your behavior becomes less dependent on whether the day feels emotionally generous. That does not make effort disappear. It makes effort less fragile. Imagine someone who says they want to take better care of their body. If that desire exists only as a mood, it will rise and fall with comfort, stress, shame, comparison, and convenience. Some days, they will care. Other days, they will postpone. The whole thing will remain negotiable. But if caring for the body becomes connected to self-respect, then it begins to occupy a different place. It is no longer just something they are trying to do when they feel motivated. It is part of how they have decided to live. That distinction matters. The same is true for focus, rest, honesty, order, or follow-through. Once a behavior is connected to a deeper principle, it gains weight. It no longer floats. This is where many people need to mature in the way they think about change. They need to stop chasing intensity and start building coherence. Intensity is attractive because it feels like movement. Coherence is quieter, it feels less dramatic, but it lasts longer. A coherent life is one in which your actions make sense inside a larger framework. Your habits are not random demands placed on you by yesterday's emotional surge. They are expressions of something you actually believe in. That belief gives behavior stability. Without it, the person keeps trying to manufacture consistency through excitement, urgency, or pressure. They keep hoping that the next burst of feeling will finally be the one that stays. But it never stays, because feelings move. That is what they do. There is nothing wrong with that. The problem begins only when you ask a moving thing to become your ground. You were never meant to stand on motivation. You were meant to stand on something steadier. This is also why self-judgment becomes such a trap. A person depends on motivation. Motivation fades, behavior slips. Then they conclude something is wrong with them. In response, they become harsher, they raise the pressure, they shame themselves into another restart. That may produce short-term movement, but it usually weakens the deeper structure even more. Because now the habit is not only connected to temporary feeling, it is also connected to fear, guilt, and internal criticism. Eventually, the person is no longer resisting the habit itself. They are resisting the emotional atmosphere around it. It feels heavy, punitive, tense. Every action starts carrying more meaning than it should. Missing one day feels like personal failure. Falling out of rhythm feels like a character flaw. That is not a sustainable relationship with change. The calmer path is not lower standards. It is better foundations. To stop asking, how do I force myself to feel more motivated? And to start asking, what is strong enough to guide me when I do not? That is a much better question. It leads you away from temporary emotional management and towards something more durable. What standards matter to me even on an ordinary day? What values do I want my life to express even when no one is watching? What kind of person am I trying to become when the mood is gone and the day is just a day? Those questions have more substance than motivation questions. Because a steady life is not created only in strong moments. It is created in ordinary ones, in the plain hour, the tired evening, the distracted morning, the week that does not feel cinematic or transformative. A life that only works in emotionally elevated moments is not yet stable. Stability is revealed when the feeling is absent and the structure remains. That is the kind of life many people are actually longing for. Not a life where they feel inspired all the time. A life where they do not need to. A life where the next right action does not depend on emotional magic. A life where consistency has somewhere real to stand. This does not mean you will never need encouragement again. It does not mean motivation has no place. It simply means motivation is no longer in charge. It becomes a guest, not a ruler, helpful when it appears, not catastrophic when it leaves. That is a healthier relationship with your own inner life. You stop treating every motivated day as a new identity and every unmotivated day as a collapse. You stop building your week around whether the right feeling arrives. And slowly, something quieter begins to emerge. Not perfection, not permanent discipline, but a steadier kind of self-trust. You begin to learn that your life does not have to be carried by emotional momentum in order to move forward. you begin to see that the real shift was never about finding a feeling strong enough to save you. It was about building a structure steady enough to hold you. And that changes the whole atmosphere of growth. Growth becomes less dramatic, less performative, less dependent on resets. It becomes more integrated, more grounded, more human. You stop waiting to feel ready to begin living in alignment with what matters. You simply return. That return may look small from the outside, but it is powerful because each return says something different than the old cycle said. It says, I am no longer waiting for a feeling to give me permission. I am living from something deeper now. That is the beginning of a steadier life. So maybe the question is not, how do I become more motivated? Maybe the better question is, what in my life is stable enough to guide me when motivation disappears? That question can change everything. Because once you stop asking a temporary feeling to hold your whole life together, you can finally begin building on something that lasts. If this reflection resonated with you, consider subscribing to the channel. Gentle Calm is for people who are tired of living in cycles of emotional momentum and collapse and who want something steadier underneath their life. Not just motivation, but clarity. Not just inspiration, but internal order. If this video gave you something meaningful to think about, take a moment to like it. That small action helps this kind of calm, thoughtful conversation reach more people who may be quietly caught in the same pattern. If you want to go deeper into these ideas, the Gentle Calm book series explores this path from calming mental noise to building internal order and a more durable personal framework for life. The Gentle Calm Daily Reset Journal offers a simple daily practice for returning to clarity and consistency in a quieter way. And if you prefer slower, more reflective writing, I share weekly essays on Substack where these ideas continue with more depth and space. All of those links are below. Thank you for being here. And as always, stay calm.